Well, for more on Morsi's trial and the political situation in Egypt, I'm joined now by Amy Hawthorne. She's a former US State Department official. She's now at the Rafik Hariri Center for the Middle East at the Atlantic Council. Thanks very much for coming in, Amy. To what extent, as Orla was sort of suggesting at the end of her piece, is the outcome of this trial a foregone conclusion?
Well, the context is so politicized that in that way it is a foregone conclusion, and there's a lot of concerns about the independence of the judiciary in Egypt. However, the events of the night, the evening in question of December 5th last year, that this case concerns, there were people killed and injured that night, and there were Muslim Brotherhood supporters involved in those clashes. So there's a bit of substance to this trial, but we'll have to see what the evidence is, what the proceedings is, how the trial is conducted to see really how fair it could possibly be. There's a lot of questions about the procedure.
The Brotherhood failed today to mount the kind of protest that they might have been hoping for. To what extent do you think this trial is likely to inflame an already very tense situation in the country?
Oh, I think it's very likely. Even though the numbers of Morsi supporters were relatively small, people still turned out, and I think that as long as this continues and the legal proceedings continue against Morsi and other Brotherhood leaders, they will continue to turn out. And his appearance after nearly 4 months in secret detention, of course, is going to galvanize his supporters. The trial is also going to inflame those who deeply oppose Morsi and want to see him locked away for a long time. So it's going to further divide the very divided society.
And we saw some of that in the courtroom today. I mean, it is extraordinary, isn't it? The image of that cage in that one courtroom. We have President Mubarak recently on trial, now Mohamed Morsi also on trial. How much has Egypt today changed from pre-Arab Spring Egypt?
Well, it's changed in two major respects. One is that there has been this elected president who's been deposed and is now on trial. So Morsi himself, the fact that he was ever elected president was very momentous, even though his presidency was a failure. And also, Egypt is very, very tumultuous now. As you may recall, under the days of Mubarak, it was a very artificially stable place where nothing like this was really ever allowed to take place on a large scale. But it's also a sad reminder of really how little Egypt has progressed democratically since Mubarak was overthrown.
We have the military back in charge again.
Right, and still questions about the rule of law and all of these things that plagued Egypt during Mubarak's rule.
Okay, Secretary Kerry, on a tour of the Middle East at the moment. How difficult is all of this for Washington?
Well, it's publicly, the United States has said nothing directly about Morsi's incarceration or the trial. When Secretary Kerry was in Cairo yesterday, he made a very oblique reference to the importance of civilians being tried in civilian court and due process and releasing political prisoners. But really directly, the U.S. has said publicly nothing about this trial. So unless there's discussions going on behind the scenes that aren't being made public, the impression that Secretary gave yesterday was that Morsi's trial as such is not a real concern for U.S.-Egyptian relations at this time.
Okay, Amy Hawthorne, thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you.